just going to go with the, the Avengers annual and the Thing 2-in-1 annual that Jim Starlin did with the Death of Warlock.
Nice.
That was, for me, the beginning of Ronin Comics. That is the most underrated, overlooked piece, I think, in the whole Marvel universe.
JJ, were you into like superhero comics at all? Is that like kind of a big touch for you?
I was, not as much as Josh, but you know, I worked at a comic book store when I was a kid. One of the first jobs I had, and I was like, you know, just 15 years old, and I got a job in this store in LA. And the first day on the job, the guy was a really weird dude who owned the store. I don't know what he was on, but he gave me the keys, and he's like, I'll be back, I'll see you tomorrow. And he left. And I was like alone in the store with the keys. He didn't even tell me how to lock the door. So I kind of wanted to steal some of the older Spidey books that were there, and I didn't do it. I probably should have done it. But so I would read books, there. I got into it, but I was never into it as much. I was more like into the Twilight Zone and more TV and movie stuff.
At one point, you did write a script for a Superman movie. It didn't get made. But
it's very well received.
But is that a genre that you would be interested in returning to, like superheroes, or is that
sure? Yeah, sure. I'd be open to anything for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Joss, is it too early to talk about kind of like what your take is on the Avengers? Even if you could just sum it up in a line.
I have to have a take.
Yeah, it's helpful when you're a director to have kind of a take.
Okay. It is a little early. I am still writing an outline. Still I'm still in that stage of reworking it. I will say that the thing that I love about it, the thing that made me excited to do it, was just how completely counterintuitive it is. It makes no sense. These people should not even be in the same room, let alone on the same team. And that, to me, is the very definition of family.
JJ, you grew up making films on the Super 8 camera. You also grew up loving the films of Steven Spielberg. And now you are making a movie called Super 8 with Steven Spielberg. And is that like a total coincidence?
Is it a coincidence?
Is that a coincidence?
It's sort of a dream come true, honestly. The strange thing, this is a weird story. When I was 16 years old, Matt Reeves Matt directed Cloverfield, and we created Felicity together. Matt and I were at a Super 8 film festival in LA, and the LA Times wrote a story about it that came out the next day, and we got a phone call that day from Steven Spielberg's assistant, who at the time was Kathy Kennedy, and she said, Steven made films when he was your age, and they're damaged, the splices are sort of coming off, little tape splices. Would you guys be interested in repairing them? And Matt and I were like, yeah, we got finals, but we could probably also repair Steven Spielberg's movies. And they said, oh, great, we'll drop them off. So someone comes and drops off these two original films, Firelight and Escape to Nowhere, that Steven Spielberg made when he was a kid. And these are the original, there are no copies, these are the original movies. And it says on the film, which of course we watched them, it says written and directed by Steve Spielberg. And I was like, Matt, we must take a frame of this. We have to. He was like, no, we can't do that. They'll know. So we didn't steal it. And anyway, a lot of them almost theft in my childhood. So we repaired these movies. They were shot on regular 8, not Super 8, and we like peeled off every splice and put it back on. And it was just watching these movies that he made. It was insane, and it was just so inspiring. And I had no idea why this was happening. It felt like a complete joke, because isn't there a building somewhere at Universal that's designed to house the team that restores Steven Spielberg's film that he made when he was a kid? So we repair these movies, and they pick them up. They give us $300, and that's when I knew why they had us do it. But anyway, so years later, this is a couple years ago, I called Steven and I said, I have an idea for a movie called Super 8, and I just sort of pitched him, and he was very excited about it because I knew, having, in a weird way, worked on those movies, I had a sense of sort of what he had done when he was a kid.
What can you say about Super 8? Is this also a case a little too soon, or can you say?
I think it's way too early. I mean, I would love to, show you footage, but we haven't shot any yet. Of course, my favorite thing about the movie, though, is that someone, will go to the theater and see the trailer and hopefully say, "Oh my God, that looks bitchin'," and have no idea they're starring in it. So we're shooting in September. We haven't shot the movie yet.
Now, what has been the collaboration like been with Steven so far? I mean, has that been...
It's unbelievable. It really is surreal. And because there is a genre element to the movie, it's impossible to work with him and not constantly reference the work he's done. And you don't want to sound like you're being a sycophant, but it's been incredible. He's been beyond helpful, and the movie is, I think, very much in the spirit of some of the Amblin films that he made years ago. So it is a dream come true, and I couldn't imagine working on something that was more sort of personal and also kind of hyper real. It's not like the movie is some kind of autobiography. There's a lot of stuff in it that feels very personal.
Will a film called Super 8 be in 3D?
No.
No?
Very interesting.
Interesting.
You're welcome.
Let's talk about 3D filmmaking, because that's been a big storyline in movies this year. Are you guys fans of the current 3D? I mean, do you like 3D as a movie-going experience, and as movie makers, but as moviegoers?
Honestly, I'm totally into it. I love it. I really think the technology is really good. It kind of puts you in the space. It doesn't give me a big headache. And I think that it's being done so much now that we're past the eat the pancake, sort of poke things at the screen era of 3D, and you can just it just adds a little something. There are definitely movies where, that shouldn't be in 3D. I don't know, like Cabin in the Woods, or... Although I was watching Once Upon a Time in the West, I was like, this might be okay. It's all about space, The thing that's really great about 3D, though, is when you put the glasses on, everything just gets dim. Like, it all feels a little sort of gray and muted, and I feel like I want to see the vibrant, I want to see the movie, and I feel like you get into it, but for me, it always has that, my brain adjusts to it after a while, but it always has those first few minutes, you're always like, oh wow, this seems like less than, the experience, like an IMAX experience to me, which is my favorite kind of experience, and it's so, immersive, but the 3D thing for me, I'm not totally on board, but I'm sure it's too late for me, so.
I mean, as storytellers, are there any opportunities are you writing to 3D in any way in your current project? Writing to 3D with 3D in mind?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. There's definitely no. And then the sharp thing comes right at him. The thing is, if you're making an action movie, 3D. It lends itself to that anyway. Things are going to come at the screen. Things are going to, you're going to want to get that sense of space. You're going to want to get that sense of where they are and how they're coming at each other. It's going to be that kind of experience anyway. It's going to work in 2D. The movie has to work in 2D. Most people will see it that way. So you just you'll take it into account ultimately when you're framing. But I don't think it doesn't really change the way I shoot. There are a few things you want. A sort of a sense of, depth of field where you get, that you get with the shorter lenses or wider lenses. I like those anyway. You don't cut as much because, it messes up the idle, but I like that anyway. You want things to be coming to people so it's exciting. I also like that. So it hasn't changed anything except it's going to make it harder to shoot.
Years ago, I was in New York and I was kind of a little sick and it was late at night. I turned the TV on, wasn't feeling very well. And I was switching the channels, and this movie came on. It was about a bunch of young adults, and they were acting really weird, and they were like, they were really scared about something, but like it kept doing weird jump cuts, and they had no idea what they were scared of. And then they would like offer someone something. They'd be like, "Here, do you want some food?" And they push right out. And the person's like, "Sure, thanks." And they take it. It's like, what the hell? And there was like, they were talking about like these romantic scenes that didn't exist. And I realized it was Friday the 13th 3D with no 3D, no violence, no sex. It was everything was cut out.